Hello everyone, I'm bringing you the Mannequin of the Month for June 2026 today, and the topic we're going to talk about was chosen via a poll over on Patreon. However, I did cheat with this a little bit. One of the options on the poll was for this set of kit we have on the mannequin here. I've also been wearing this kit this past weekend at the Great Central Railway. Some friends, Lucy and Bobby came down with me as well, and some friends, Ramsey, Alan and David, Ramsey's wife Georgie and David's wife Laura, all came along, and we had a very good time at the Great Central Railway, getting on and off trains, talking to people about the kit and so forth, and we badged up as Leicestershire Home Guard with the Leicestershire cap badge on the cap there, which we'll see in a minute as we move this round. Well received, and we enjoyed ourselves, and it was brilliant talking to people. So, as I say, a little bit of a cheat there, and I hoped the uniform would transition onto the mannequin, and it did. This is the topic which came top of the poll, so lucky happenstance in that regard, although I was kind of hoping that would happen. A little bit of a Home Guard kick at the minute, so I've been looking at Home Guard kit and so forth, and certainly my collection of Home Guard kits expanded over the last couple of years, which is something I've been sort of actively trying to do, so that hopefully there will be more mannequins looking at Home Guard kit going forward as well. Early 1941 is the period we're looking at here, and you're beginning to see kit be introduced as various items which have gone into production in 1940. Were beginning to be issued more widely in the Home Guard, or certainly had been issued more widely in the Home Guard, and were beginning to be seen. The troops, the men of the Home Guard rather, were a lot better equipped by this point than they had been in the middle of 1940, of course. You've seen the denim battle dress uniform, the denim overalls, basically beginning to be replaced with the serge battle dress, which we have here, which was becoming the standard. You have the leather waist belt, of course, again, basically beginning to become a standard element of Home Guard kit. You've got the canvas haversack here. You see the strap for that, and that sits around on the hip. Again, introduced as an element of Home Guard specific kit that was being manufactured to sort of give it an analogue to the Army's 1937 pattern haversack, roughly the same sort of carrying capacity, and of course proper service respirators which were being issued out at this time. Obviously in 1940 you'd had sort of special containers to allow for the civilian respirator to be carried and so forth. Definitely proper military kit is being issued by this point, and you're seeing that transition. We don't yet have the ammunition pouches, the specific Home Guard ammunition pouches, so things haven't quite progressed that far. We're sort of in the middle of that transition period from very much make do amend in the early days and limited supply to various elements of Home Guard specific kit being procured and provided, and surplus Army equipment such as the belt, and obviously issue equipment such as the respirator haversack being issued out as well, with a service respirator carried in there, and helmets and so forth as well. So from that point of view, interesting. It's a step in that development of Home Guard kit and the look of the Home Guard, and beginning to look more professional and be trained more professionally as well, and basically becoming a more professional force and better able to discharge their duties of local defence and so forth. So quite interesting from that perspective. Talking about the mannequin and the kit we have here and the uniform and so forth, we'll start at the top as we normally do. And as you can see here, we have the field service cap. This is effectively the standard headdress of the British Army at this time as well. And these were issued out fairly early on and obviously badged up to the local units that the Home Guard units were associated with. So in this case, we have a Leicestershire cap badge from the Leicestershire Regiment. I'm going to keep tripping over Leicestershire as we go through the video, I'm sure. But the field service cap, probably familiar to many of you, of course. This is basically the standard British Army cap at the time, worn on the head, sort of cocked over to the right-hand side so that the cap badge is elevated, and the buttons should sit down the middle of the forehead above the nose, basically. So that's the way it should be worn. You do see photos of them not worn that way, but that is the way it should be worn. I've tried to sort of replicate that angle on the mannequin here. We have a battle dress blouse. This is of the 1940 pattern. Not as common in the Home Guard as the earlier battle dress serge at this time, but it's what we have on the mannequin here as an example. No insignia worn on this, but for the armlet, which is round on the right arm there, and we'll see more detail of that in a moment. Rather lucky I've waited to Monday to film this, so it'll be coming out a little bit later on Patreon than it normally does, but hopefully during the middle of the day at some point. Very kindly gifted to me by Alan at the weekend, this Home Guard armlet there. So that's a nice addition. Originally, I wasn't going to have anything on this if I'd filmed it before the weekend, because you do at this time see the battle dress just worn unbadged with no insignia, not even the armlet. But in this case, I've been able to include the armlet there. It's a very kind gift from my friend Alan Pryor. So we have the armlet there. We'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. In terms of the equipment at the front here, you can see the straps crossing the chest for the respirator haversack carried round on the left hip, and on the right hip we have the Home Guard haversack, which of course is this sort of rubberized canvas material. We'll have a look at the body of that in a moment as we move this round. And then we have the waist belt here, which was effectively becoming the standard Home Guard waist belt, generally speaking. This is from the 1903 pattern bandolier equipment, although well, late in the Great War, it was replaced with the webbing version, which then in the 1920s was rendered obsolete or obsolescent, and the leather belt went back into production, although obviously the bandolier equipment was really falling out of use at that time. The belt came back into production and was still on the books in, I think, the late 1990s even, remembering what's written on khaki web. So a very long-lived bit of kit. And as I say, this was adapted for use with the Home Guard equipment later on, with a slider at the back and the ammunition pouches carried at the front, using standard 1937 pattern braces to effectively make a set of web equipment for the Home Guard. At this time period, generally just the belt, maybe a bandolier of ammunition if a rifle was being carried, but this is fairly typical of what you see at the time in early 1941. That's basically what we can see at the front of the mannequin here. We'll start moving this around now and have a look at some of the other elements of the kit and the equipment that's being carried. Moving this around to look at the right-hand side, you can first of all see the side profile of the field service cap there. In theory, the various elements of this can be unbuttoned and folded down to be worn around the head. Very, very rarely is that ever seen, but that's sort of the idea behind the design. You can see here the epaulette on the shoulder of the battle dress there, obviously the strap coming over for the respirator haversack. You can see the curve of the arm here, which is something I always point out when we look at battle dress. It really is quite a practical garment in the way it's designed. It's based, of course, on 1930s sort of active wear, ski suits and things like that. But the curve of the arms makes this comfortable when bringing a rifle up to the shoulder, of course, particularly when prone. So that's quite an interesting element of the design there. The armlet's worn round on the arm here, as you can see, Home Guard. Previously, obviously, there had been an LDV, Local Defence Volunteers armlet, and you'd also had a patch, which we speculate was possibly originally intended to be worn on the LDV armlet, stitched over it, over the top of the LDV to same Home Guard, but you do sometimes also see those stitched directly onto the uniforms as well, interestingly. And then later on, of course, you get the Home Guard titles and then insignia underneath specifying the specific unit, and we'll talk more about that when it comes up in a future video. In terms of the equipment carried here, you have the Home Guard haversack round on the hip here, and this is an element of kit specifically designed and introduced for use by the Home Guard. So you're beginning to see that at this time, well, 1940, basically these went into production. You'd seen as well tins for carrying the civilian respirator. Those fell out of use fairly quickly, but the Home Guard haversack was issued out in large numbers and basically became the equivalent of the 1937 pattern haversack for the Home Guard. So you could carry mess tins in there, you could carry rations, spare socks, that sort of thing. Depending on the specific operation, the specific training that was being undertaken at the time, there would be orders issued as to what was to be carried. So you have that round there, made of a rubberized canvas, closes with a single strap, a single 1-inch strap in the center there, as you can see, carried on a shoulder strap. You do often see these also carried on the back with the shoulder strap looped around the body to carry them more like a 1937 pattern haversack in battle order, but you do see them carried on the hip as well, as we have here. So that's the Home Guard haversack carried around on the hip. You'll notice that it is carried underneath the belt to stop it just flapping around. The straps had originally had sort of sections sewn into them that could be opened out to make the strap longer, and if you do that, the strap is long enough for them to be carried down on the hip underneath the belt, as we can see here. So that's the Home Guard haversack carried around on the right hip there. Looking at the rear of the mannequin here, you can see again the straps crossing over in the back there, the belt over the top of the shoulder strap on the haversack there to hold it secure to the body. Of course, the respirator haversack is actually worn over the top, and the reason for this is it could be brought round and hooked up if required in order to use it at the alert. If urgency was part of that, you could use a hook to hook this up to the strap, and you can immediately bring it up to the alert just by swinging it around under the arm, unhooking your arm and bringing the strap up. So it has to be free of the other equipment to be able to do that. So obviously you see the strap is carried over that for the haversack, the Home Guard haversack, in order for that to be possible. In this case, we have the Mark II steel helmet carried on top of the respirator haversack there. This particular example is a Mark VI, so the hooks are being used just to hook into the helmet chin strap there. You do also see helmets carried up on the shoulder as well, sort of with the strap looped through, the arm looped through the strap and then secured using the epaulette. That's another way you see them carried as well. Just variations on a theme, basically, of carrying the helmet when it's not actually being worn. You can also just slide the strap of the respirator haversack through the strap of the helmet as well. As I say, in this case, just making use of the hooks because they're there. Because it's a Mark VI haversack, there's a hook on both sides of the shoulder strap, which facilitates carrying the helmet in this way. And obviously this is carried with the main compartment, which contains the respirator and the filter, the canister, that's carried against the body. And again, if you were to swing that round, it would therefore be in the right position to open the main flap and don the respirator if required. So that's carried round on the left hip there, as you can see. Moving on to look at the left-hand side of the mannequin here, you can see again the side profile of the field service cap there. And if I lift this up, you can see the Leicestershire cap badge there with the tiger and the Hindustan title across the top there, obviously a legacy of their service in India. You can see that there. In terms of the rest of the kit on the mannequin, we've talked about the respirator haversack and the helmet here. There's not a great deal more to see here, obviously no insignia on the battle dress or anything. One thing I will mention is an omission, and that is a bayonet. Now, this is partly due to the fact I unfortunately don't have a suitable bayonet. In Bayonet Frog, you would generally see the bayonet for, generally the P17 was the most common rifle probably at this point issued to the Home Guard. Maybe the P14, those two rifles were issued out in quite large numbers, the P17 being the more common of the two. It carried in a 1939 pattern leather bayonet frog, but we don't have that here. And the reason, as I say, is primarily because I don't have one, unfortunately. However, that would potentially indicate that this volunteer was armed with a machine carbine or submachine gun in modern parlance, or potentially a Lewis gun or a Browning automatic rifle. So weapons where you don't need a bayonet. So just to note that here, the omission of a bayonet, we'll take that as sort of the reasoning behind it. It's a man armed with something other than a bolt action rifle, obviously other than a weapon taking, which would take a bayonet. That's my explanation for the lack of a bayonet on the mannequin anyway. Something that I'm hoping to rectify in the not too distant future, but just to mention that here, we do have that omission on the mannequin. And I think that's pretty much everything. So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. As I say, lucky happenstance that the topic which came top of the poll was sort of by design the kit I was wearing at the weekend for the Home Guard display. Display. We weren't wedded to a fixed display. We were travelling on the trains and talking to people as and when we got the opportunity, which worked very well. So we might do that again next year, possibly. But as I say, this is the kit I was wearing at the weekend, as it happens, and it's nice to have this set up on the mannequin as well. Now this will stay on display for a good few weeks until we get on to the next mannequin of the month, of course. So as I say, I do hope you found this interesting. I may put another Home Guard topic up as an option for next month, looking at the Home Guard a little bit later on, possibly with battle dress and the rest of the equipment. Potentially, we'll see about that. I'll give that some thought, and I might add that as an option. No guarantee that'll come top of the poll, of course, but it may do, and it might then give a sort of nice next step in the development, looking at sort of a later 1942, when the rest of the Home Guard equipment had been introduced, and obviously the equipment could be worn as a bit more of a full set at that point. So possibly we'll cover that going forward. I do hope you've found this interesting in the meantime. If you have and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And of course, it's the corporal tier over on Patreon that gives you the opportunity each month to vote on what's going to be covered in Mannequin of the Month. There's generally 3 options on the poll over there. So if you're interested in that, check out the Patreon page down below. And as I always say, a massive thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those 2 methods. It really is greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below, and there will of course be photographs of this posted up over there as well if you'd like to have a look at it in a bit more detail. And if you'd like to get in touch with me but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well, so feel free to drop me an email there if you'd like to get in touch and you're struggling through social media, or you don't use social media of course. But that's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.